And we're going to get there in your book here in a minute. Your book is called Unflinching. This is the book right here. And I kind of made that connection with the unflinching part. You being a sniper, you obviously can't be flinching when you're taking a shot.
Right.
And this whole thing kicks off the first chapter, which the name of the first chapter is awesome because this is something that I believe is something that a lot of people have. I know I damn sure did. The first chapter is called The Soldier in the Child. And I think that describes a lot of people that join the military.
Yeah.
It's the thing that's in there. They're born with it. You were born with it. I know I was born with it.
Yeah. It's all I ever wanted to do. It's all I want to do. Believe me.
Now, your mom, how did she feel about all that?
She resisted, like any 80s mom, right? How old are you again?
44.
So you're a little older than I am, but my mom, being a foster kid, read all the books, and all the books at the time said boys should play with Barbies and girls should play with Tonka trucks and treat them gender neutral and blah, blah, blah. But guess what? If you put boys in a room and girls in a room with toys, the boys play with Tonka trucks and the girls play with the Barbies. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, my son, I had two daughters that were young in our house, and I didn't want them, and I'm not going to have them have all these Barbies. I don't even know where they came from, but they showed up at my house.
Yeah,
and guess what? My son was born, and I was all worried, he's going to be playing with Barbies. That kid didn't care about Barbies. He didn't care about dolls.
They don't even look at them.
Anything that had wheels on it.
Yeah, it's just boys and girls are different.
Yeah, they're just different.
And you know what? I know lots of women that are great soldiers. I'm not saying that they don't have it, but mom wanted, no guns, GI Joes, but no, couldn't keep the weapons. And I love her for it, because who knows who I would have been if she had fostered it. It would have fizzled out. I don't know. But yeah, all I wanted to do was soldier since I was a little boy.
So your mom had that attitude, and then along came Uncle Jim.
Yeah. Uncle Jim.
And tell us a little bit about Uncle Jim.
Well, I mean, I just saw him the last weekend, actually. He lives in Victoria, where Mr. Echo was born. And when you're a child, right, there's nothing more impressionable than a 3-year-old, really, right? And when I was 3, he would, back then, if you were in uniform, you could ride the train for free and get the bus for free. And so he would ride the train in uniform when he had his leave. And he'd show up at the house and he'd bring me teddy bears. And I was like, this is obviously the coolest dude ever. And whatever he does, I want to do it. And he would tell stories about what he did, and he was an infantry soldier, same regiment that I joined. And that was the seed, I assume. No one really knows. This is just family lore.
Right.
Because mom didn't like it. Dad was a blue-collar auto worker. Yeah. His dad was in the army, but it was like conscripted into the Serbian border guard. When the German army showed up, he basically threw his hands up, was like, "Yep, I'm cool. Don't shoot." Mom's dad apparently was in the army, but no one knows because he died when she was 10. No one's really sure what he did. Apparently he was in Korea, but there's no record of it. So anyway, it was there, and Jim, I think, was the catalyst that sparked it. Sparked it when I was just a young little impressionable boy.
That happens. Now, when you got to be a teenager, you kind of sounded, in the book, you sound like a teenager.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, just to go here in your book, you say, I was a loner who didn't fit in. I still dreamt of being in the army, probably because I wanted to belong to something.
Yeah.
And it was definitely clear I didn't belong in school.
I hated school. Especially because when you get to high school, and I don't know how you guys, I've heard you talk a little bit about it. It sounded like you had the same issues. Like,
definitely
couldn't connect with any of your teachers. The only teacher, I remember I had this one teacher, I forget his name, but he was Scottish originally. And he was my history teacher. Like, the only subject I cared about was history, really. And he would tell stories about everything else he ever did in life before he was a teacher. And I was like, okay, this guy actually has some shit that I need to hear because he's been around the world and he's done everything. The rest of them, I became a teacher at a college, and this is how you type. And I'd be like, why am I even here? What am I doing here? Doing math, snipers, we eat ballistic charts for breakfast, and math was useless to me in high school. And the last thing I wanted to be was in school. And I actually, because this was the 90s, right? So that was still when you could quit school to join the army. Oh. And I was like, I'm just going to quit school and join the army. And my parents basically had to beg me to stay. They let me join the reserves, which in Canada is called the militia. And it's once a week and a weekend a month. Mm-hmm. And they're like, you can do that, but don't quit school. Finish school. I was like, all right. But it was completely against my will.